What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020, Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner, given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers, sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care, and being part of that team in 2023, 2022, and 2021. Yeah, 2021. Reached out directly and indirectly to over 100,000 fathers around the world each one of those years. Also, very happy to be a content contributor to the Fly Nubian Queen YouTube network. And I know we got some people jumping in from the Fly Nubian Queen network. Welcome, welcome, welcome to state. I was going to say Primetime. Primetime. I got all these things. Primetime Saturday with Aisha LaLa. Also, I soon to be contributor to the Indie Soup network and advisory board member. That's another content creators network that I'm a part of. So let's get the ladies up here. If you haven't been here, I don't know, and I have some interesting things to share with them. I was in a conversation with one of the viewers from last week. Oh, did she love what you ladies do? She was going, man, those ladies, like, and they say that and they put their contact information out there. And she was saying, you ladies are a hot mess. And she said that as a compliment. She said that you guys are a hot mess. She goes, I laughed so hard. What's going on?
Nothing. I had a bit of a hot mic moment there. You didn't put me on mute. You were doing your the YouTube automatically popped up on my phone.
Okay. There you go. Surprise, and before we go any further, hello, Regina Ferris. Regina, what's up? Great to have you here, and everyone who's watching, please, if you're watching live, please chime in from wherever you're watching live from. So what's been going on over the last week?
Oh man, did we have a good 10 and 10? Y'all, if y'all not listening to the good 10 and 10, y'all need to be listening to the 10 and 10.
Yeah, I finally was able to edit the one from last week to this evening, so finally got those issues cleared with StreamYard tech assistants helping me. And so tomorrow.
Nice.
Were they fairly quick response?
Yeah, I actually had the time to sit with someone today. So nice. Both will be up tomorrow. And nice. I'll put some links in the Discord and everything. I had time because my daughter is partying it up in New York City.
Wow.
Because 3 of her best friends, they're triplets. Actually, there are 2 fraternal twins and 1.
Oh, and, wow.
Yeah, so they were born together, but they just turned 21.
New York City.
Time.
Yes, so their parents sent them, their cousins, my daughter and another friend to New York City, put them up in a hotel.
Oh my
restaurant. Goodness. They're about to do the club thing tonight with bottle service, and
they're gonna have a ball.
Yeah, they are. I miss those days.
Okay.
Man.
Just the thought of it made me exhausted.
Right.
So okay, you know what? I'll do some promo stuff first. So please, we have things for sale that are part of this program. Primetime Saturday store. That is the link. Next up, we talked about Patreon. Hey, that's that 10 and 10 they talked about. Subscribe. You can get to that exclusive content. And then also join the Primetime Saturday Discord group. Please email me at dr.vibe@vibeshow.com. If you want to subscribe to my channel on YouTube, go to the Dr. Vibe Show, hit subscribe, then notification. Also follow the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And then finally, to advertise your business product or service on the platform or any of the platforms I host, email me dr.vibe@thedrvibeshow.com. I have a question before we get into the as we appetize here. Mm-hmm. Has anyone done anything for Black History Month?
Every day.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
I'm known in my communities to the people. I actually have people come to my Facebook page every February, especially for that, because every day I put up a fact, and it never ceases to amaze me that someone always, I try to get things that most people don't know. And the one that I posted yesterday was about Phyllis Dillard. And there were so many people that didn't know about that. And it's always fun to be able to have people go, oh my God, I didn't know that. So then they take it and post it on their page. So yeah, this is my month. Not only is it my birthday month, but it's Black History Month. And we got leap year too.
Double for your trouble. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Also want to say hello to quickly just to JJ Mars. What is up, JJ Mars? Go ahead. Aisha.
I'm reading. I went and bought some books. I'm reading actually this month, The Grift by Clay Cane. If you listen to Sirius XM's
I haven't
Urban
heard
View,
that name in a long time.
On 126, he has a new book out called The Grift. It's about Black Republicans. And got it this week, came out Tuesday, started reading it. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of blogging on our Patreon about it. Anyone who is reading it, wants to read along with me, join the Patreon and let's chat, because it is actually, I read the introduction and the first chapter this morning. And it is good. It really just, the chapter I read was about Frederick Douglass and what people think they know about Abraham Lincoln and his stance on the emancipation of Black people versus what they actually know. And there were some connections I was making as I was reading it, like this colonization theory he had about moving enslaved people, like giving money to the enslavers, to give up their slaves, and then they wanted to send a whole bunch of them to Haiti. And it reminded me a lot of what they did in Louisiana after Hurricane Katrina, and the relocation of Black folks, and then the gentrification of parts of Louisiana that had historically been all Black. So there are a lot of different things going on in there that make you see how relevant even the past is to the present. So.
Well, you know what? I'm going to jump in about how relevant the past is to the present. On the first night of Black History Month here in Toronto, I had the pleasure and privilege of opportunity. Has anyone heard of the name Professor James Small?
No.
Okay. African-American historian. So many stories. One of them that he's been married a long time, and him and his wife were married in Malcolm X's bedroom.
Oh.
And so he was here in Toronto, but another wonderful thing, he is one of the contributors content wise to the series Godfather of Harlem.
Oh, wow.
So he was in town. I think he left today, but he came in on Thursday, and he was at a restaurant on Thursday night. Give a plug to LA Wade Media, who brought him up here. And basically she just did a conversation with him for about 2.5, 3 hours.
Wow.
And had a chance to sit with him after. And I'm being bad because he told me I got to call him. He says, I've heard about you, Dr. Vibe. We need to talk. Incredible Black man, married to the same lady all his life. They have 8 children.
Oh, wow.
6 between themselves and 2 adopted from Ghana. And he's does regular travels there, and they have 23 grandchildren.
Wow.
Oh my goodness, that's a blessing.
Yeah. That's almost as many as my grandparents had. Almost.
Exactly.
Look, almost we exceeded that amount, but yeah, that's a lot. It is a blessing.
Yeah, so it was just wonderful listening to him, and the man's like 76, 78. He don't look it, man. He don't look it. Like
takes good care of himself, doesn't he?
Yeah, but he was a mon of a mosque. He's done so many things, but he was really good. Like I just was like they had it at the front, and I was just sitting to the side, like a foot away from him all night, just like this.
Wow.
I had that kind of experience back in 90, I think it was 98. Dr. Winbush, Dr. Vibe.
Yes, yes, Dr. Raymond Winbush.
He was, like I said, was my professor and the advisor on my master's thesis. And when I was at Fisk, he ran the Race Relations Institute there. and every year they had a conference every summer. Well, one summer I was interning at the conference. I stayed in Nashville, was interning at the conference as a graduate assistant, and someone needed to pick 2 people up from the hotel for the conference. So he gave me his keys and said, go get them. And it was Dr. Dorothy Height and Dr. John.
Wow.
And what I was driving, but I'm listening to the conversation, and she was so regal and he was so gentlemanly. You know, he held the door open for her, all of that. But the conversation that they were having was about one of the last times they were in Nashville together, Martin Luther King. And it was just a really great story. And they were talking about all these, you know, just talking about people and these experiences. And it was I just sat and listened while I was driving, because I was sitting there really witnessing Black history.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, that's the same thing I felt with Professor Small. Like, he's lived all this stuff. You're not on the screen, not in a book,
right,
etc. And he was very diligent, saying we shouldn't call ourselves Black Americans or Black Canadians. Or we should say we're African Americans, African Canadians. He really, and he said, a lot of the challenges that we have as a Black people, we can find our answers if we look at history, look to our history.
I agree.
It was phenomenal conversation. Like, I have parts of it video wise, and I know LA Wade Media is going to make a documentary on, but I think I'm going to share. I just did a little recording of some of his background. I could have gone on, but I said, no, I don't want to steal the intellectual property that he's, like, him and LA Wade Media had. And then yesterday I had the opportunity to do was a keynote speaker at a business. What's it? Whitby Business Council, like 200 people. They asked me to be the keynote speaker. So
nice.
That was fun. That was a lot of fun, really. And they had me up there for an hour.
Wow.
It tells you just how much people they want this.
They need
it. Crave it and they need it. Well, and everybody is trying to fight against it, but that's what we're here to keep it all above board.
Yep. And the more people fight against it, the more people want it.
That's
absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. No doubts about that. All right. Let's get to story time. Time for the meat. And welcome everyone from Fly Nubian Queen. You're checking us out. Give us comments in real time. So 45 rails against Fani Willis as she admits relationship with prosecutor. This is
ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
But, you know, are you surprised that he's railing? I mean, come on, that's all he does. That's all he knows how to do. But, you know, I was always told, before you throw stones, you better start looking in the back of your own house, see who's got moles coming through yours.
Right. You know, this is a case of, like, 3 things can be true. Well, 2 things can be true at the same time. But in this case, 3 things are. The first is, that was the relationship inappropriate? Yes. She's his boss. That's an inappropriate work relationship. It shouldn't have happened. The second thing is that, does her relationship have anything to do with Donald Trump's trial? No, he did what he did.
It doesn't, but it is now become part of the trial.
It has become a part of it, but that would go to my third thing. But it isn't part of his trial. She was there. The prosecutor that was assigned to the case that she had this relationship with was the only one in her office willing to take the case, because everyone else would have to pay for their own security outside of what they already are getting. But the third part of it is that, like what LaLa said, he opens himself up to the same attack. If he's going to make this a political thing that he's going to run on, Democrats in the House and the Senate can also run on this issue of infidelity, because there was Marla Maples, there was Melania, there was Stormy Daniels, there was the other chick. If you're going to talk about
this, said the other chick, the other chick.
Okay, so let me bring up. I'm just playing counterpoint here, just for general audience. But all his stuff, people have forgotten. They said, "Hey, that's him." They accept it, but isn't potentially the credibility of this trial, and also maybe longer term Democrats, because if this lady Fani was on the up and up, it wouldn't have, like, politically it could be damaging. And you see now they're saying, you know what? How are you having this person that she has no morals? Da, 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 da.
But let's be clear, that's the talk outside of Atlanta. What I read today was that in Atlanta, it was an open secret. So it's not going to really taint that jury pool. It's an open secret just as much as Lindsey Graham being gay is an open secret in South Carolina. And I'm saying that because I lived in South Carolina and it was an open secret. I think the concern, at least on the other side, not the Republican side, they're going to do what they're going to do. They're going to ram this into the ground. But on the other side, the worry is whether or not this issue will taint the jury pool. And if it's an open secret in the Atlanta area where the jury pool will come from, I don't think it will have that kind of effect. I think the larger effect is going to be on the election. But again, Trump's people are going to be for Trump people. For Trump, they're not changing their minds. They're not going against.
Yeah, they're steady.
So the worry is, does it affect independents?
Well, that's where you were reading my mind. Right. There is where I'm going.
But here's the thing: is it going to make? Oh, yeah, the independents, they're not voting on this case. This case is, first of all, it's not going to be decided before the election. They're not going to decide on this case. They're going to decide on the larger picture of democracy if they're leaning away from him anyway. So, I mean, this case, honestly,
that's an if.
Right, if. But this case doesn't really impact the lives of people outside of the Atlanta area because he tried to disenfranchise their votes.
Yeah, but
I mean, I feel you, Dr. Vibe. I'm with you. I hate it when things like this happen, because regardless of what all he's done, yes, we understand that she's done that too. We've always stood for standing up and saying, well, when you're wrong, you're wrong, because this is definitely going to be misconstrued and it's going to be used. They're going to be using it as a smokescreen like they always do. It bothers me. I'm upset about it, but you know what? I'm still more upset at Trump than her, and I don't.
Yeah,
but I just know they're going to twist it.
I think initiated
the story. But remember who initiated the story. It's one of his co-defendants.
Understood. Yeah. But again, and I just want to put it up here. Hello, Tony Brown. Hope you're doing fine.
And also, the majority of Americans aren't really paying attention to this stuff.
Jen Myers,
people who are politically astute are, but the
hello,
regular
Jen.
people.
Carlos Phoenix, people loves lies. It's a shame, right? But for me, I think the real person who could have impact on this is the gentleman who she is having an affair, his wife. Like she's saying that basically this guy isn't contributing, and then Fani, like, come on, Fani, can't you do a little better choice of some stuff here?
Oh yeah.
Like it's not looking. And you are right, and I'm just saying here for both sides here that 45's people are going to really make the thing of this, and it again that doesn't make the Democrats look good saying, hey, but again, 45, who's want him to talk about morals?
Right, exactly. I mean, the whole thing is a hot mess.
Yeah, and I mean the thing of it is that if he wants to go tit for tat on personal lives, remember he just had to pay someone that he raped $84 million. So, you know, we can do this, and I understand that it does look really bad. It looks really, really bad. But again, no one outside of Fulton County, where it is an open secret, is going to be picked for that jury. So I don't think that will have that impact. And also too, he is trying to say that she should be pulled from the prosecution because of the affair.
Yep.
Okay, but that still doesn't mean that you won't be prosecuted, because the bottom line.
But that's where he's twisted, and that's what he's thinking.
Right, and the bottom line is that you were indicted, and remember, by 2 grand juries in Fulton County, who already knew this open secret. So, I mean, he can try all he wants. It's not going to dismiss the case. And he really wants this case dismissed more than any other, because it is one that if he wins the presidency, he cannot pardon himself from, because it is a state case.
I'm seeing a lot of twists and turns down the road, and this, I'm sure, is a twist that a lot of people who want to see this gentleman prosecutor going, oh wow, and like, and I think there's more to come, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets her pulled off the case.
Well, he can't though. Remember, she's elected. She's elected.
Yeah,
he's not appointed.
Yeah, but
they might have to. She might not be reelected, but she's elected. He can't get her pulled off the case. It would be different if she was appointed, but she's elected. So, I mean, what is he going to do there? The only other thing that they could do is try to impeach her. And despite this, the people in her county are really happy with what she's accomplished thus far, particularly with that scandal in Atlanta.
Okay, but are they still happy with her now with all this going on, though?
But like I said, they already knew. This was an open secret here. This is an open secret. I forgot the article, where the article was that I read it, but they talked to several people that were just general Georgia Democrats or voters, general Georgia people on the street, and asking them, was this a shock? No. The rumor is there. And, you know, honestly, I spent time in political circles in a state, and people know the open secrets. Like for example, like the secret that Trump tried to put out about Nikki Haley cheating on her husband, he's dragging that out now. People were talking about that back in 2007, 2008. So I'm trying to.
Aisha, I'll lean on you because you know these. But I say from the outside, it don't look good.
Oh, from the outside, definitely it doesn't. But remember that jury pool is not coming from the outside. It might impact whose votes is it going to impact? Georgia?
Could the push for Democrats to impeach 45 backfire? Not necessarily now, but in future.
No. It'll go the same. Remember, one has nothing to do with the other. It's like two things can be true at the same time again. One has nothing to do with the other. They would have to impeach him on high crimes and misdemeanors that he did while in office. They couldn't impeach him for anything else. Will it impact them? No, because again, that is a state case. That's not a federal case.
So with all the energy put 45 away, if he gets elected president, he's gonna come after a whole pile of people.
He's already after people. He's already said that he's
but it's different. But it's different though. This is when he has presidential power. Right now, he's not in office. But I'm saying if he comes in, I think he said in between lines that he's going to be coming after people if he gets back in office.
But he can't come after. He can't come after a state prosecution at all. That we have that
not directly, but indirectly, I'm sure.
Well, that's the reason why Jim Jordan's on this crusade to try and see if she used federal funds in terms of prosecuting him. He, again, after this came out, he conveniently sent her another letter and got yet another behind spanking from her about the separation of powers there between the states and the federal government. Okay. And so I think that if she's not using federal funds on this, which she said clearly she hasn't, and she outlined where the federal monies were going in several letters to him, Congress has no say here. And that's why they're leaving it to Jim Jordan just to write these nasty letters. Because otherwise, what would they do? They would bring her up in front of hearings if they actually could. And they know that they cannot.
All right. We'll have some.
Because all they do is have hearings about stuff that doesn't make sense.
Okay, so you got that right. You got that right.
So we got some comments here from the family live. Carlos Phoenix, great live streamer. Ahead of the curve when it comes to live streaming, as always has been. Says he has cheated and slept with nearly anything that moves. Nobody cares.
With no protection, and mind you, and people should be more concerned about that because he could be spreading diseases and all that stuff. Be more concerned about
that. He stink.
You know, they are already talking about, they thought those spots in his hands were syphilis. Look, let's talk about that.
OMG.
Well,
JJ Mars says, I'm not a 45 supporter, but he'll be back in power. Hey, Divine Smith. Hey, what is up? What is up? JJ Mars also, he has a lot of sick, loyal fanatics who worship him. What else? Carlos also says, by the way, the rumor is that his son with Melania is not his son. And also Carlos says he will have to get people killed. He can't persecute.
Yeah. And I would not be, I'm not so sure I agree with JJ Mars about whether or not he'll be back in power, but I do believe that he's already signaling to his people that if he's not, he wants another January 6th, and this time forget bring weapons, bring bombs. I mean, this is literally where he's at right now.
Yes.
So
okay. All right.
I mean, this has been taking over the news cycle to the point that most people haven't noticed that the March 3rd date for Judge Chutkan's trial in DC dropped off the calendar.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting that Fani released this. Was it yesterday or the day before?
I can't remember.
I think it was maybe it was yesterday. I think maybe trying to do it on a because usually Friday, the end of the week, is slow news wise. So maybe that was strategic, trying to do it then. Carlos also says if he gets elected, meaning 45, it'll be the last election in the United States.
Absolutely, because the first thing that he'll do is run to his little people and be like, hey, let's get rid of this little amendment to the Constitution that says a president can only serve 2 terms.
Exactly.
Wow. All right. Well, you're watching Primetime Saturday with Aisha LaLa. We're broadcasting on various platforms. So wherever you're watching us live, please contribute to the conversation. And I also don't plug enough. You can also catch the replays on different platforms wherever you're watching it, and also audio replays on whatever podcasting platform you subscribe to. So we got it going on. So next up, GOP Mayorkas impeachment investigation is even more shameful than it looks.
Because it's based on nothing. That's why. It's based on tit for tat. And the only reason they're doing this, okay, they claim that they want borders secure. When the Biden administration has been trying to do this for a long time, but they are so enthralled with themselves and trying to make sure they get in the right line in case Trump gets back in, that we have to do what he wants us to do. And he says he wants this to be the issue, so we're just going to fight against this issue. Well, you're not getting anything solved, nothing at all. And you're the holdup. So how are you going to have somebody impeached on something that you're the ones who's responsible for holding up what's going on? It's just a hot mess. It's a tit for tat. You did this to me, and now I go do it to you. And I'm so sick of these are grown people. Why are people acting like they're 2-year-olds? I'm sick to death of them. I literally got sick to my stomach over this whole thing because this man has done nothing wrong. But they're going to continue to do these things and keep our government not functioning. And here we are in nothing. We still don't have a budget. We don't have a budget. Why are we impeaching people?
And with the shutdown's on its way again in 2 weeks. You know, I watched these hearings the other day when they were.
Would you like some water, Lala, so I can pour it over you?
Yeah.
I watched these hearings the other day when they were on C-SPAN, and the main argument from the Republicans, it seemed, was that he was not doing his job. Here's the problem. He can't unilaterally do his job without the funding to do it, because to put more people at the border, you need funding. To do any of this, to put more soldiers, to build more wall, whatever, you need funding. The problem is that his job is to give a budget to Congress to pass. The Republican majority Congress said No. So you can't accuse him of not doing his job when, in order to do his job, the people that hold the purse strings are not giving the means to do it. So it's not that he's not doing his job. You're trying to not let him do his job and then impeach him for the thing you're not letting him do.
Exactly.
Which is, and you know, the main person in that hearing running her mouth is Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Three-toed.
We're doing this. It's definitely going to happen. Oh, so basically what you're saying is that you have the votes. Remember, you only have a 1-vote majority right now because somebody else is sick and you lost another seat. So try that and see what happens. Right? I mean, 2-vote majority.
She's got such a big mouth. I mean, I'm so sick of her. Somebody please stuff a pickle in it. I'm so sick of hearing her. That's all she does.
Tell us how you feel, LaLa.
That's all day long.
Okay. Next time I see a pickle, should I be thinking about Marjorie? I'm going to say, LaLa.
Well, you know, she's a Neanderthal. She don't know how to act.
Exactly. Nicki Minaj should have said Bigfoot about her instead of
right.
That should have been directed at her.
Exactly.
No,
I mean, it's like the woman. She's ignorant. She's dumb, and also
don't even know don't know nothing. Doesn't know the due process. Doesn't know anything at all.
She didn't go to Congress to govern. She went there to literally be a chaos agent. And the people of Georgia should be ashamed of themselves because nothing that she's doing in this hearing and others is making their lives better. She's not bringing back any money. The money that comes back when she shows up to these things where they do the ribbon cutting and all that, that's Joe Biden money. That's the money that people Bath, who's one of the Congress people from Georgia that, she helped to get, and the 2 senators, that had nothing to do with her.
Not at all.
So as someone who doesn't live in the United States, I look at this and I know we had a story a little while back. What do they do in government in Washington?
Right now,
nothing.
All they're doing is trying to just go back and forth against it. What are they doing to help the average everyday American? I need to know that from you.
Okay, so here's what I've learned. Democrats have put forth several bills that would improve the lives of people, everyday lives. The Republicans will not even bring them to the floor for a vote, because if they do, even if they fail, if they bring it to a vote, the American people will have access to that on video. Okay, the bills will be read. They will have to vote on it. They'll have to debate on it. They'll have to give justifiable cause as to why they don't want to pass this thing. And they refuse to do it in an election year when all their seats are up. Anything that will hold them accountable or will show that they're a do-nothing Congress is what they're against. And all this isn't just for them to be reelected. All this is because they are so behind this orange monster. 10 man, okay? 10 man. They're behind him. He's a monster. And the fact that he is willing to sacrifice the welfare of the people that vote for him, the sad fact, the sick fact that those people who vote for him are willing to sacrifice their own lives and their own well-being.
Yes.
It tells you
when he does not care about them at all. He could care less.
He doesn't. It tells you how sick this whole thing is.
That's what gets me more than anything, is the fact that he clearly only cares about himself and the people who are fighting so hard for him. He could care less if they lived or died.
Your trailer park is repossessed, and you're up here voting for this rich man and sending in your money for your rent on your trailer, on your land to him, and not paying your own bills. You're sitting at home eating beans out of a can while he's eating steak at Mar-a-Lago because you gave him your money.
But it seems, and I know where you're going to go with this. Let me put up Eunice's comment first. Eunice says, I don't understand how a former president seems to be running Congress.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is the whole point. He's a private citizen now.
Okay.
He's a private citizen. Why is he running the show? It's like it's an embarrassment.
Eunice, you hit it right on the head.
So let me ask then. if you look at American government over the last 20, 25 years, has, for the average Black American, has either party really done a lot?
What do you consider a lot?
Well,
Right.
well, okay, what have they done? Like how has the political process worked for the average Black American over the last 25 years? Because it doesn't seem like it's working. And it does, and we got two parties, and it seems that they're spending more time warring on each other than trying to help the everyday Black American.
I mean, are you asking for tangible results?
I'm asking for anything.
Because, for example, I can look and I see the American Rescue signs of all the jobs, and I look at who's getting those jobs. There are Black and brown people getting those jobs and those contracts. Black businesses, contractors are able to compete better for those jobs. And, even just the reducing the cost of diabetes, the diabetes insulin down to $3 to $35 a month for senior citizens. We are disproportionately represented in the number of people who have diabetes. That's killing people in our community. And a lot of people are suffering because they couldn't afford the insulin. My mom's diabetic. My mom is retired. And before this, the cost of insulin was running almost $1,000 a month.
Yeah, that's true.
That is a tangible result. And there are a lot of, that's why when I mentioned the book about Clay Cane, actually listen to his show. He has had a lot of Black people call in who have gotten their student loans forgiven and are now able to save money and buy houses and things like that and put the money back into the economy, back into their neighborhoods. So, but remember, all that was not being done by Republicans. Donald Trump sat there and lied and said that he got X number of billion or $1 million for HBCUs. Come to find out, the Biden administration did the audit. None of the money went. He's going back and making sure that they get that money they were promised. So, I mean, have they done everything that we needed? No, not at all. Is there still a whole lot more that they can be doing? Absolutely. But are we going to go to the party that really sits in our faces and tells us on a day-to-day basis that racism does not exist, Nikki Haley, and then believe and expect them to even do the bare minimum of what we need?
Well, they're definitely not. But I'm going to tell you how I personally feel. They're never going to let us live down that we had a Black president.
Mm-mm.
They're going to punish us to the day that they can. They're so angry at that. They're so angry that we were allowed to have a Black president that they don't even want to say that he's Black. Most of them say, no, because his mama was white. So he's not the first Black president. Well, didn't you come up with the one drop rule, you idiots? So it all boils down to racism, period.
Yeah.
And they're never going to allow us to be better, period. Right. They always want us in the place. And in fact, they want us back in the fields. It's very clear because that's the way that they're going. So yeah, we're going to be punished. We're not going to see anything in our lifetime. I don't think. I just don't think that.
And I'm glad you said that last part, in our lifetime, because here's where all that angst and anger stems from about Barack Obama, is that we've all, up until like Gen X, right? We've all been told, all these living generations before Gen X have been told, there will never be a Black president in your lifetime, in our lifetime. And the fact that it happened in these people's lifetime, I read on our 10 and 10 this week when LaLa and I talked, I read a clip from Martin Luther King's speech following the Selma to Montgomery march, and talking about the fact that, what do poor white people give their kids to feast on in order to look away from the fact that they're poor, that there aren't opportunities, that the rich class is keeping them down. It's this bird of Jim Crow. And he talked about this whole idea of feeding them that. Well, that's where this comes from. Even though they might not have ever run for the presidency or felt that they could become president, they always believed that that was the one thing that was for them. it was the one thing in all of our history, all these years, the 200 years, never been a Black president. So even you could be broke, have absolutely nothing, but you could still be president if you were white and you were male. And that is the thing that is them off, is that they no longer had that. So because it signifies that this country is becoming a more diverse country. And again, we've said this over and over again, the percentage of children 20 and under now are majority people of color. Mm-hmm. And that's only going to get higher.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to our next conversation, because I think it'll be a continuation. But you should want to talk about this, a lawsuit to block Louisiana's new congressional map that has second most mostly Black district.
Right. So they drew this, all these states, a lot of these states having their congressional districts redrawn are where the majority of Black people live in the South, that Bible Belt, the former Confederate states, right? Mm-hmm. The states that the Voting Rights Act had specific provisions for, saying that they couldn't change their voting laws in the state or their districting without checking with the federal government. Well, they got rid of that provision of the Voting Rights Act. And now Louisiana was told that they have to redrew their maps, so they have the second mostly Black district. And now there's a lawsuit trying to overturn this districting map. And the problem that we have is with that districting map, it'd be different if it was just like a local. It's a congressional map in a mostly Black district, which means it would give Democrats another seat, likely, in Louisiana, another congressional seat in Louisiana. And when we're talking about a Congress right now that the Republicans have a very slim majority, if you take what they have and suppose everything stays as it is, even up to the election and even after the election, we are going to be in a position where there's a 1-seat majority in that House of Representatives. Mm-hmm. And it might even be more, because remember, Mississippi had to redraw their maps.
Yep.
So did Alabama, and so did Georgia. And they know that these particular seats, these 4 or 5 seats that had to be redrawn, are going to favor Democrats.
And they don't want that. So
they don't want that. So
they're going to do the dirty tricks to fix it.
The important part to know is that, remember, if they can do this, if they can get that overturned, then the next thing they're going to come for are those voting laws that they have there, and they will disenfranchise more Black voters. And remember, it has a ripple effect. So if it happens in Louisiana, granted, Mississippi and Alabama were told by the Supreme Court they had to, what they will then do is appeal and say, well, hold up, this lawsuit in Louisiana said that they didn't have to do it. This should apply to all of us. Mm-hmm. Just like they did with Roe. Remember, it was the one case in Mississippi, and they overturned it for everybody in the whole country. So That's why it is something that I'm really deeply saddened that media is not covering this the way that it should, because this really will impact our election, and it really will impact people's day-to-day lives, particularly with the right to vote. And if Trump gets in office, you think that he's going to stay president forever, not just stay president forever. Even if he had a false election like they have in some of these other dictatorial countries, the first people to be disenfranchised will be Black voters. And they will start with that Bible Belt, those southern states.
Exactly.
Anything to add, LaLa?
Nope. Because here's the thing. This is how they fight. They fight dirty every time. Now, anytime that they see that they have a disadvantage, they're going to try to go in through the back door. And they've been pretty successful at it. So we all should be very concerned about this. And you should all be paying attention to what's happening in your districts. Because a lot of times people don't even really understand this is happening. They hear, oh, they're redrawing the lines. Okay. Well, no, you need to really see how that's going to affect your state and how that's going to affect your vote. And if there was anything, this is a voting year. I can't tell you enough to make sure that you are registered to vote and you are sure that you're registered to vote. Like, go to the website, check it. I mean, don't just say, "Oh, I'm registered to vote," because you don't know what things that they pulled. You need to check every day. I'm Florida, okay? My vote. I'm gonna make sure my voice gets heard. I don't care if the Satan's down there or not. I'm still voting. So, don't ever get discouraged, and don't let them continue to do the backdoor tricks to get around what they're doing. So you need to be paying attention.
Yeah. And remember how congressional districts are drawn. They're drawn by population. So there was a population shift in Louisiana.
Yeah.
That made it a necessity for them to have to redraw their congressional map so that there's this second mostly Black district. So that tells you the other thing. Goes back to what I said before about the population shifting and the numbers shifting. This is going to continue to happen as the populations shift and as they become more diverse. They're going to have to redraw these districts and make them more equitable. And that is why they are doing they're going through these things and doing these cases. From what I understand, there are 35 states that have some kind of districting map going on. Okay, 35. That means there's 15 states that aren't. So think about it.
Shady. And you know how I feel about Mississippi, so
the place where Black people go to die.
Yeah, literally.
So how concerned should Black Americans be about voter suppression?
Very.
100%.
It should be top of the mind. 1,000%. They're coming after you. They're telling you what they're exactly telling you what they think of you. But this also should show you how much power we have. If we didn't have the power, they wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah. And they're coming at the voter suppression in a multitude of ways. Let's be clear. It's not just the legal maneuvering that they're doing. They're also doing it in terms of their messaging and trying to this misinformation and disinformation that they're spewing out there. One of the things Steve Bannon said a couple of months ago, that if they can get Black men, if they can pick off 50% of Black men, that the Republicans will be able to rule for 100 years. The likelihood that they'll get 50% is low, but even if they got 25%, that is enough. They might not rule for 100 years, but they'll rule for 50. Because 25 is half of 50%. So let's be very, very clear. They're coming after you. We talked about the AI with the robocalls. It's going to trust and believe. They are going to full throttle AI down the throats of Black voters. And the one thing that they're going to that's why they're also keeping this immigration thing in the forefront, is because one of the ways that they're trying to peel off Black male voters is to pit them against immigrants and saying they're coming for your jobs.
That's right.
So basically what you're saying is that you think the only jobs that we're qualified for are to work in fields? Didn't you
Pretty
think
much.
that in the 1800s?
That's where they want us.
Exactly. So let's be very clear. There is a coordinated attack on their coordinated effort, because for the last 30 years, they have not been able to get white voters to vote in mass for the Democratic Party. So they realize that people of color are really the backbone of the party. So if you can carve off part of that backbone, the whole structure falls apart.
Sure does.
All right. Well, comment here from Eunice saying 45 was the protest president because Barack Obama became president. So
they're still protesting. Man's been out of office 8 years.
Yeah, but he knows how to work the emotions of people.
Oh, yeah.
Right? No, he's a good man with nothing behind him that they can crap him for. He has not had affairs. They can't get anything on him. So this is why they're trying to punish us.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't take the fact that they had a good, upstanding Black man. How dare he?
Yeah. And the other part of it, too, is that on the flip side, the people voting for him, especially the white men voting for him that are so gung-ho, they want to be like Donald Trump. They want to be this perception of wealth. They want to be able to sleep with whatever women that they want to, no matter how ugly and stinky they are. And we know that Donald Trump is both. They want to be able to, have massive amounts of adoring fans and this and that. And
it's their dream. It's their dream.
Right. They bought into the facade of Donald Trump. And, and on top of that, he says the things that they like. He hates the people they hate. Perfect storm.
All right.
Perfect storm.
We're going to take a break from Primetime Saturdays with Aisha LaLa. And when we come back, there's a grant program for Black women that is under attack in the United States. Big time. So the ladies are going to come back and chat about this. We'll be back in 90 seconds. Keep it locked.
And that's what I feel like. You feel like you're the Harriet Tubman of the mind.
I am.
I feel like I'm one of the Harriet Tubmans of intelligent Black people. Like, I want to liberate y'all from like being left behind and ignored and oblivion. No, really, the rappers get all the attention. Seriously, does anybody else feel this way? Like ignorant Black people, they'll be all up, getting all the headlines on the Shade Room.
Overly sexualized Black folks.
Like the twerkers and the, just people that, don't always represent the best of us, the diversity, like people like Dr. Vibe. Like, everybody should know about people like Dr. Vibe. Dr.
Really
Vibe he's trying to do good work for Black people. Dr. Vibe from Toronto. Good to see you, my brother. Dr. Vibe. Everybody follow Dr. Vibe. He has a great show. He's very good at what he does, and I have a lot of respect for him. Okay, so let me hop into this. What's up, Dr. Vibe? How you doing? Everybody, if you see Dr. Vibe in the chat, everybody go follow the Dr. Vibe show. Dr. Vibe is a real smart brother and a good human being. I like the guy a lot, and he's very intelligent. And I think everyone should pay attention to what he's got going on. We got to shine the spotlight on the intelligent Black people out here that are really doing the good work. Don't just pay attention to the rappers and the celebrities. A lot of these people are losers. Your true winners are your people in your community that are really having your back, helping us to have stronger families and a stronger community. So Dr. Vibe is in that category. So you might see the Dr. Vibe show in this chat. If you see him, please go follow him. Okay. All right. So anyway.
All right. We are back on Primetime Saturday with Aisha and LaLa, and we're having another quiet conversation. Nothing, nothing going on. We're just so docile on the platform today. Again, big shout out to all the viewers on the Fly Nubian Queen YouTube network. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much for your support. And especially if you are watching live, please feel free to share your comments and the ladies will address them in real time. So next conversation piece. Grant program for Black women comes under tough questioning in key anti-DEI lawsuit. Excuse me.
We just told you they coming after us on every front.
Every freaking time. Like they don't want us to have anything.
Have nothing.
At all.
Have nothing.
Yeah.
And it's the same people who attack us every time. And they try to stand on equality when they're the tornado of the storm. Like, you just don't want anybody to be great. Now, we know that we are always underserved and always underrepresented. So how are you going to come after us when all we're doing is trying to improve our communities? And let's be true. Let's be very truthful about this. A lot of the times, guys, it's not just our communities that we help. We don't never turn anybody away. Mm-mm. So their communities also get served as well. So the fact that they're coming after us just because we serve the minorities or whatever, it says a lot about them. What is that, Billie Holiday? Them that have should have them that not. So the Bible says. So I don't understand these people, why they have so much hate in their hearts for us, and why they can allow us to at least uplift ourselves. Because what's the first thing they say? What is the first thing they say, y'all? Well, lift yourself up by your bootstraps.
But we're going to take your boots.
Right, we're going to take your boots.
Okay, so the background of this is the Fearless Fund. It's uh really a fund. I know that everybody, Keisha Knight Pulliam, Rudy Huxtable, she has been part of this group, of this collective of women who have gotten early stage funding for businesses that are owned by women of color. But they do give other grants. All of their funding comes from banks and financial organizations. None of it is federal money. All the monies that are given are charitable donations. They're not campaign donations or anything of that nature.
Nope.
And the thing that is under dispute, the one fund that they're coming after, not the other ones, is the $20,000 that they give to businesses that are majority led by Black women. Okay, so you could have a business owned by a Black woman, a white woman. If the Black woman has 51% of ownership in the business, they can qualify for this amount. Now, remember, it's $20,000.
Which isn't really a drop in the bucket.
And that's just a fraction of the money that they get in the first place. But the guy that gave us the Supreme Court case that did away with affirmative action in higher education is the one who brought this lawsuit up. He said, when they were interviewing him after that Supreme Court loss last year, he said, okay, my next thing is I'm going after this Fearless Fund. He said said that, and he has. And he's not going after the other grants for other women of color, specifically the one for Black women. And so they brought this up in front of this 3-judge panel. 2 of the judges have been appointed by Donald Trump, one by Barack Obama. And the question that one of the Trump judges said was that, well, because the argument is that, wait a second, these are charitable donations. They're not from the federal fund or any kind of federal money. So the First Amendment protects this particular grant. And so the argument that the judge made, the Trump judge said, well, so basically you're saying if there was a white only grant, that would be protected by the First Amendment too, and assumed that this guy would say, well, no. He said, well, as deplorable as I would think it is, it would be protected under the First Amendment given the same circumstances, that it was charitable donations, whatever. You know what else is protected by the First Amendment are also the campaign contributions that individual people give to political campaigns. So if they do this, and they stop them from doing this, the next step that our community needs to start doing is racking up lawsuits against these political action committees.
Yes.
All these super PACs that take donations from white supremacists.
Yes.
Because you can't say that it's their freedom of speech, because guess what? Precedent, you already said that can't happen with this particular fund. Okay, so look, lawsuits have consequences.
They do. And the thing is, they're shooting themselves in the foot with this.
Yeah,
as they always do. But see, hate is blinding. Hate is always blinding. You're so enraged about something that you don't even see how this can come back and bite you in the butt. I mean, my father always told me a snake is going to be a snake, and it always bites. Yeah. And this is one of those things where I don't think that they thought out the long-term steps. I'm guessing they're thinking that they own the courts. They have all these Trump judges. And guess what? This is what came out of the Trump administration. The only thing that they were able to do was to flow into all of the courts these Trump judges. Remember, that was the one thing. That was the one thing that he did more than any other president before him. That's right.
There you
Basically, it was you get a judge and you get a judge.
That was a boss move. Mm-hmm. But my concern is, what percentage of ownership does Black America have compared to what like this program would do minuscule on the needle? Why is there your affraidment?
$20,000.
Scared. I don't understand that.
That's the
part I don't.
Because I told you what it was. They don't like us. They don't like us. They don't want us to have anything. That's the whole foundation of everything that they're doing. They hate us.
And remember, he's going after one Black woman in particular, and that's Ketanji Brown Jackson. That's a personal vendetta. That's Ketanji Brown Jackson. Because remember, on that court, when she gave her dissent, she called his argument disingenuous. She ripped him a new one in that outstanding dissent. You have to go back and read her dissent. And
how dare she talk to me like that?
Him off enough. I'm going after this $20,000. This pot of $20,000. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. Now, mind you, they're getting money from Bank of America, Capital One, all those. That's where the money's coming from. It's not coming from the veterans, the United States VA. It's not coming from there. It's not coming from the small business backing of the federal government. No. Mm-hmm. So basically, then the same people that Republicans rely on, which are the bankers and the capitalists, you're going to tell them what they can do with their money. You think they don't like that?
Mm-hmm. All right, just some comments here. No reparations, no vote. Watching on Fine Nubian Queen, saying B1 and Mr. Big Day Payday. Maybe this is what it really comes down to: fear of a black planet.
Yeah, that's always been it. Remember in the South, especially during slavery, there were 4 million Black people across that part of the country, and the enslaved population outnumbered the white population like something like 100 to 1. And so there's the fear is like you said, the fear of a black planet, the fear of these numbers. Remember, I keep saying it, the projection is by 2035, 11 years from now, white people will be the minority in this country. And they are so afraid that all the people of color are going to do to them what they've done to us, starting by taking their land, giving them smallpox and all that stuff, separating them from their children, enslaving them, putting them away in internment camps, shipping them off somewhere because they're Christian. We're white Christian nationalists. It's like all the stuff that they've done, they're afraid of it coming back to them. Because guess what? That's what they would do to us.
But isn't that what narcissists do?
It is.
It's always your fault. You made me do this. You made me do this. It's you who made me do this. That's exactly how this is going.
Yeah. Not all narcissists are racist, but all racists are narcissists.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So before we went on live, we were talking and sharing about the stories we'd be chatting about, or the ladies would be chatting about, because I just steer the ship. They drive the ship. And there's a good Black lady, I know many of them, by the way, who has been involved in the DEI space doing presentations to a number of Canadian businesses over the last, especially since the George Floyd incident. And I was doing a broadcast the other day, and her husband said, "Oh, up here, a lot of companies aren't calling it DEI anymore. They're calling it corporate wellness."
Yeah. Well, I'm on this job hunt thing, right? And Lala and I had this conversation in the Patreon, the 10 and 10 this week, and I was saying how, I've worked in what would be considered the DEI space. I worked for a Commission for Minority Affairs, African American Affairs coordinator, and I've done other things. And the backlash is so fierce that you feel it in the job market. I literally had someone come back and say, "We're looking now." My resume details that you have lobbying experience, media experience, journalism experience, and a communications background. My resume literally has those things. And I was told that I wasn't a suitable candidate because they were looking for those 3 things that they said I didn't have, that are literally written on my resume that way. And I realized that this is having a colossal effect. And I've learned of and communicated with other people who have lost their DEI jobs because the companies they're responding to this backlash. So you have a lot of people out there right now who are unemployed because of this particular backlash. And it's like, okay, so where do we go now if this is what we've been doing all these, these decades, and you're telling us, that we're not employable because you're afraid of the racists in the Trump party?
Well, I think where do we go from now? We got to just do our own, really and truly, because if we keep on doing the same thing, we're going to be getting the same results.
Yeah,
really.
But that's been the case all along. We always have had to take care of our own, and anytime that we do, they come and tear it down. There was many thriving Black communities here. Where are they now?
Yeah.
They're underwater. They were torn down. They were chased out. Why? Because we can't have anything. How dare those ends have anything at all or more than us?
Right.
This has been our history. We have had thriving communities, but every time that we thrive, they can't stand it.
Right. Exactly. And think about how many times that we have built, rebuilt, and rebuilt our communities every time they've been torn down. We are seen as disposable people. We always have been seen that way. And until we have political and economic power, we'll always be seen that way.
Yeah. And we just told you how that's going to go. They still mad at us about Barack Obama. I saw a whole thing the other day that just blew my mind out of the water. It was on TikTok, and I went down this rabbit hole. And I cannot believe what I watched. But this lady came on, and she was like, we already know who the Antichrist is. And I'm going to prove it to you with the Bible. And at the end of it, she goes through this whole thing, and it was Barack Obama. Of course it was. It's Barack Obama. He's the Antichrist. So, they'll do anything to make us.
I think the way, this is just me these days. Actually, let me get to some comments first. So we got Mr. Big Payday says Black Wall Street, but even that was destroyed.
Yeah.
And Eunice Graham says they should know by now that this is not how Black people behave. They should look at what happened in South Africa after apartheid was dismantled. And Mr. Big Payday says Lake Lanier, do your research.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and more than that.
Yeah, and they're not going to look at South Africa because guess what? The wealthiest man to come out of South Africa is Elon Musk.
Oh, couldn't we have gotten through a show without his name?
No, you like him, so stop it.
Oh, that
your
man
boy.
I'm so
but all I will say is, and I don't say much in the conversation because it's a ladies' show, is that I think we need to focus more on the economical than the political.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we do. And I think it starts with some good steps that are being taken in terms of how a lot of there are different programs that are actually happening that are helping us to gain that kind of economic power. Like one of the good stories that I had from my state is this canceling of crippling medical debt.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get to that.
We're going to get to that, but that is going to benefit the primarily Black and brown communities in Connecticut.
Well, just to close off this part of the conversation, we're talking about the DEI. There is a lady I know who has had many years doing DEI stuff. She was hired. I'm not going to say the name of the company, but they have stores here in Canada. It is the biggest retailer, or biggest employer in America, retail employer in America. So you probably know who that is.
Mm-hmm.
And she got hired as a DI consultant. She quit after 3 months.
Wow.
She quit after
says
3
a lot.
months. After 3 months, she just said, no. And I know that probably the majority of DEI hires, especially since in the last few years, have been Black women.
Mm-hmm.
And enough challenges that Black women have in corporate workplaces. I'm sure I would love, if possible, if we could get anyone who's worked in the DEI space over the last few years and have left it, or can give us a look from the front line on it. I know, I know other than you, Aisha, but I'd like to get some others in regard. If anyone is out there or knows someone, please love to get in touch with them. Oh, speaking of which, program alert, and we'll talk about it again at the end. In 2 weeks' time, on February 17th, we have an expert on online privacy.
Mm-hmm.
Very much needed. I'm excited for that show.
Yeah, online privacy. So I'm going to start putting it up next week, but I'm definitely heavily promoted. And this lady has, in Canada, 15 years experience, and also her company, they do consulting for Canadian, American, and European businesses.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
pretty big.
Yeah, I saw this white guy who was saying he was Black on Twitter get called out by Black folks. And then he tried to say he didn't. They had the screenshots, they had the receipts.
Yeah.
So it was nasty. So guess what?
So get ready in 2 weeks' time. I'm gonna put up in the next few days. She knows it, and she is so good, family. I've had her on 2 of my platforms. And especially for the Fly Nubian Queen people, I want you because she knows her stuff.
Yeah.
And she'll tell you right up front, North America is so far behind what's going on.
Very, very far behind.
Yeah. And we saw that this, earlier this week with the hearings about the internet safety.
Yes.
The parents of the children talking to
promo alert. Next few weeks, 2 weeks time. That's going to be a amazing conversation. All right, let's go forward. Next conversation piece. Connecticut to become the first state to cancel medical debt for many reasons. I didn't even know about this.
Yes,
I didn't either.
I am so happy that we're doing this here. Governor Ned Lamont signed it into law. He's a Democrat. I do not always agree with some of the things that he does, especially something else that he's trying to do that I'm still trying to get a handle on. But with this, it is a really good thing. What they have done is they've leveraged $6.5 million that they had left as a result of the American Rescue Act, the COVID relief money that they gave to states to do things. And we have a lot of people in this state that have crippling medical debt. And so to qualify, your medical debt has to either be 5% of your income, or you have to have an income that is up to 400% of the poverty level, which means that anyone that has an income of $125,000 or less with medical debt, you don't have to apply. You will get a letter saying that your medical debt has been cleared. They've negotiated using those monies to negotiate a lower rate, pay those companies back. And also, too, it's really going to benefit Black and Brown communities, because Connecticut has one of the biggest wealth gaps in the country. We are considered one of the, if not also the wealthiest state in the country. And we have some of the poorest cities in the country of populations with 125,000 or more. And so it is going to really directly help those communities. And it makes, when you look at wealth disparities in Connecticut, like you said, I grew up in New Haven, Connecticut. Yale is right there, but you see crushing poverty all around it, all around its perimeters. Okay. So this is going to really, really help a lot of people, particularly people who make even just $5 too much to qualify for state Medicaid. So
yeah, that's really good amount that you said, and under 125,000. That I'm shocked at that number. I really am.
Yeah, because we also have higher salaries. So if you're talking about like a two income family that has that $125,000 a year, suppose that's what they're supposed to make this year. That's what they're projected to make in 2024. If one of them gets sick, that's it. So I think it's not just for the people at that higher end, but if you're making $50,000 a year and you've been being treated for cancer and you're having to pay what your medical insurance does not cover, or if you are on dialysis and you have one of the things that they require, even if you have your own health insurance through your job, you also have to buy a Medicare plan because it is a life-saving measure. So if you lose your job, once they start, they can't stop. So you have to pay into Medicare as well as what you're paying. And I know this because I had 2 siblings who were on dialysis and had transplants. You have to pay this amount of money. And so that is a medical debt that people are really struggling with. And so,
yes.
And remember, our people are disproportionately represented among the people that have kidney disease and on dialysis, and, oftentimes feeling like we're last in the line for transplants. So I am so proud of my state for doing this. We are the first state to do this. And so I'm hoping that other states take heed, at least, especially the states around us in New England, start doing it. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes around. I know, unfortunately, that it will not get around to the southern states.
No. Or LA or California either. I hate to say it. I mean,
look, they keep rejecting federal money coming from the Biden administration, but always have their hands out for federal money because they don't have the tax revenue that wealthier states do.
Why do I feel one day this will get overturned? You
can't overturn it.
Sure?
They can't overturn it. It's not a legal thing. This is money that they were given for this rescue plan, and they have leverage. They're not using it for to cancel home ownership. It was a health pot. It's to alleviate health issues, and they're using it.
But let's follow the money. There's got to be some either companies, organizations that are not happy with this.
I don't see why, because they're getting paid. They're not getting paid as it stands.
No,
they'll get paid, but of course there's going to be pushback. But remember, these funds, the state gets to determine how they'll be spent. Thankfully, we have majorities in both chambers. It's not going to be, and we've had majorities in both chambers for a very, very long time.
So there's no threat of the other party, or even someone taking it to something like the Supreme Court.
You can't take that to the Supreme Court because the rules, and when the money is given to the states can determine how to use it. That's why you get states like Florida and South Carolina turning the money down or getting it and not using it at all.
Because there's a side of me that says, why is it that I feel these days things that will help a lot of people?
Yeah.
There's ways of it being overturned.
The money's been gone. This is from the 2021 pot of money.
Okay.
So they can't go back to that. If it was something coming from the new budget, that budget has already been allocated.
I'm listening with open ears, and as Steve Perry said, open arms on this. on that.
Again, even if a state legislature wants to reject it, they would have to have the majority votes. They don't.
Okay.
Our Republicans don't have a majority. That's just the numbers.
Okay. Okay.
Put it this way, they don't have even close to a majority.
For now.
I believe it's something like 50 seats.
Okay.
But Connecticut is really a liberal state. We've been that way for a long time. They're very,
LaLa, do you want anything to add? Because something tells me something's twirling.
No, they're not going to be able to do anything about that. Just because of how the state laws are, they may not be happy with it, but because of the history of Connecticut, I don't see that happening.
Okay.
That's one of the few states that I feel like is pretty safe.
Yeah. We've got individual issues, but in a large in large part. Put it this way, I've helped lobby legislation in South Carolina. I've helped lobby legislation in Connecticut. Connecticut's a much easier road to get these things passed and through committee and to happen fast. But again, this is 2021 money, not 2023, 2024 money. Okay. So it's already been allocated. And the one thing is that they had leverage to do what they wanted to do with it. As long as, now, if they were going to take that money and put it towards something else that was not medical, because remember, it's COVID-19 money. They're going to put it for something that was not medical, then yes, they would have to be, they would have to get special permission from the government to do that, first of all, or they would have to give it back. But to not give it back, they're going to use it for this.
Okay, let's go to our final story. Wow, this is an interesting one. LaLa pulled this one out of the fire. Books and Looks. Gen Z is, quote, rediscovering, unquote, the public library. Go for it.
Yeah, you know what? We have to, we always say people don't read or anything like that now. I mean, they don't, that's not the truth. But what's interesting about this article, it's not just that they're going to read. They have now kind of used this as a different kind of platform to have some peace time. The coffee shops are too busy. They're too loud now. So people are going to the libraries. They're networking with one another. They're recording and showing themselves in the library and doing research with one another. This has kind of become the hip spot to go. And Gen Z is leading the way with this article, with this whole movement, because it's just been a hole of where they can find a place to be. But what better place to go than the library? Yeah. I am one of these people who love bookstores, who loves libraries, and you can do so much at the library. It's not just that you're going to read books. You can go and listen to audio. You can listen to historical pieces. You can, everything that you can possibly think. I still smell library when I say library. So this excites me, because I did not know this. This is what was really interesting to me, because not everybody is actually even going because of the new things that they have online. You can download books and recordings and everything. And now the library is just as important as it was when we came up, because you can put your hands on things that you didn't have access to before. So it may not be a card catalog. Maybe it's a digital thing that goes on. But I know I enjoyed the LA library when I was there. And I didn't have to set foot in it a lot of the times, because I had access to the things that I needed with the downloadable books. And you check them out. They have a certain amount of digital product that you could do. But I did also love going to the downtown library, because there's so much history there. And I love the fact that you could go to these places, because most libraries are older, right? And if you go to the ones that are usually downtown, I always tell people to stop looking down. When you go out and you go to cities, look up, because what you see is the beautiful architecture, the beautiful everything around it. There's just something about the energy of that. And I am just thrilled with this story. It just tickles me. And I felt like this was a good story for us to end on, because we have so many things going against us. You know what? They're already trying to take books, but you know what? You still can go to the library and find the things that you need that have not been taken. You still have access to listen to recordings. And I encourage everybody to do so. And it's also another good place for you to go and register to vote if you haven't done it.
Yeah, and also too, it's encouraging, because Gen Z, they're now like, how did you guys learn the Dewey Decimal System? They're having to go back and relearn, because when you go into the library, it's still cataloged that way, even if you do the search online, right? It's still like, I know that all the Black history books are at 185.5. And I know that because that's where I spent a lot of my youth. And, my mother used to take us to the library once a week, every week, as I was growing up, to the library every week. If I wasn't getting a book out the grocery store, because every time we went to the grocery store, our grocery store had like a book section, and I always got a book. But the library was there were just so many different types of books, and coming out of there with a handful of books, and like, oh my gosh, the excitement, and just remembering when they stamped it, and it's like, oh gosh, and it gives you a sense of responsibility too, especially when you're young. It's like, you got to get this book, you got to take care of it, and you got to make sure you bring it back on time, bring it back unharmed. And so just not seeing that this generation that really didn't get out a whole lot when they were younger, because there was all the technology and games and things that kept them inside, seeing them get out and go to the library, it's just really nice.
And what's interesting is this young man that you're seeing right now, he doesn't really do, like, he just goes to the library to do his regular stuff. But all he does is he just turns on his phone, and he has people who come and follow him because they're at their libraries too. So it's like an online networking thing. Like, we're all at the library, which is a cool new thing. And I love technology for one, and I love books. So you can put those two together, and I'll be one happy LaLa. Because, honey, I used to come out of the library with bags of books. Like, I would just eat them.
I read them all.
Yes.
Cover to cover.
This is taken from The Guardian Online, and the title of the article is "Books and Looks: Gen Z is Rediscovering Public Library." And so I'll just read part of the article here. Gen Z seems to love public libraries. A November report from the American Library Association, drawing from the ethnographic research in a 2020 survey, found that Gen Z and millennials are using public libraries, both in person and digitally, at higher rates than older generations. More than half of the survey's 2,075 respondents had visited a physical library within the last 12 months. All of them were bookworms. According to the report, 43% of Gen Z and millennials don't identify as readers, but about half of those non-readers still visit a local library in the past year. Black Gen Zers and millennials visit libraries at particularly high rates.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Keep damn books. Library's gonna fill up. People are gonna line up to go to the library. So, if you wanted to stop people from reading certain books, the worst thing that you can do is tell them that they can't, because now they're flooding to the library.
They sure are.
Well,
and I also talked about a wonderful story on 10 and 10 about a young Black librarian who's keeping people excited, and he's very, very influential on social media, and he's just a geek, and he loves the library, and he is sharing that love. And so I'm just thrilled to have this happen.
It's
all right.
Story.
Well, Library Switcher on Twitch says, it seems strange to use paper books anymore. I read all my books on my Kindle.
You know what? I tell you why I don't do that. Because I have a Kindle app on my tablet. I have a Kindle app on my phone. Kindle app on my laptop. Too much other stuff to distract you from the art of reading. When you have a book, there's nothing else. You have a book in your hand, there's nothing else. Shut off the TV, whatever, and you get to just focus in that moment. The brain clutter goes away. I put my phone on silent, and the brain clutter goes away, and you can really clearly pay attention and listen and think critically, because it's not enough just to turn the notifications off and not have those distractions, but you can't think critically. There are research studies to show that you can't think critically when you have the possibility of distractions, even if the notifications are off for a time period. To get lost, I do read things on my digital devices, don't get me wrong, but there's something special about getting lost in an actual book.
And the feel of it. It's something about the feel of it and the smell of it. I know that sounds geeky, but it is.
But I'll tell you this as someone who writes. I notice that when I sit and I write things out on paper versus when I see it on the laptop and editing, and even as an editor, when I've told people how to edit, you edit so much better pen and paper than you do looking at the screen, because things tend to run together, and you oftentimes have seen something so much that you miss things. So even if you if you write on the computer, print it out to do your editing, because that you have fewer mistakes when you do that way.
And you know what, Liberty? I know you said that you could just turn off your notifications. I ain't mad at you. Let me tell you, if you reading. I could care. Hey, if that's your cup of tea, have it.
Yeah.
Liberty Twitcher says, so people waste time, money, and fuel to go to the library and then read paper books that use up resources when instead they can be at home or whenever or wherever reading a Kindle. Also says, nothing distracts me when I simply turn off the notifications easy. And then finally says, I won't criticize, but I don't use pen and paper at all, ever.
Interesting. So do you also do your writing on your Kindle, like with the iPen or whatever like that? Do you do the script? I'm curious to know that. Yeah.
Like with one of these?
Because I do that too sometimes. But I'll tell you something else. And they've done studies about this too in long research, that when you write things out rather than typing, you tend to remember things.
Oh, I know that's the truth for me.
You tend to remember things a lot better. They've done studies on kids with tests. Kids who actually write things out rather than typing out their notes tend to remember things. There's a connection there between the hand and the brain. And the reason why that exists is because the first thing that we learn to do rather than typing is writing.
I know that's a fact for me.
Yeah.
And that's usually how, when I study for tests or anything like that, I'm a person who will write out the questions and continue to write them over and over until I have them in. That's just my style of learning.
Yeah. And too, there's this other cognitive difference too. I think that I wonder if somebody has done this study. I'm going to look into it, but I think for right-handed people, it might be a different kind of thing as well. Left-handed people, you have to think differently about everything.
Yes, we do.
I'm left-handed too. Yes. You have to think everything differently and in reverse. So I think this, maybe the simplicity of it probably works a lot better for you that way, because you don't have to sit and think about things. I'll tell you this, writing is a challenge when you're a left-handed person.
Yes, it is. And then people look at you and say, well, you hold the pen like that?
I don't hold the pen any different than a right-handed person, but you have to turn your notebook to the side.
Yes, to the side.
Because you can see.
So interesting story. Let me just get some more comments here. Liberty says he only uses PC on PC or a tablet. He says, I type only, never use a stylus. Carlos Phoenix says, I write on my iPad, same effect. He handwrites notes. Liberty Twitcher says, apps such as Readwise make recall much easier and more effective than writing.
But what happens if the technology breaks down?
I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Also says IMO.
Yeah.
So there you go. So interesting. A lot of communication about that subject.
Well, what was the story you were going to tell us about the writing?
Oh, yes. So going to even high school or university, trying to find a left-handed desk.
Never. Or to find the right-handed person sitting at the left-handed desk. It's like, oh my God, let me tell you, I was so traumatized in kindergarten because they had the green scissors, the green tip scissors for left-handed kids.
And yes.
Were for the right-handed kids.
Yes, I remember that.
And you know when it was worse? When you had to go write an exam and you're trying to find a left-handed desk.
Right. And so listen, I went to go get a pair of scissors in kindergarten. I just picked up a red-handed one because guess what? Both my parents were right-handed. So everything I learned from right-handed people, right? I had no problem using the right-handed scissors. All the kids in class were like, Aisha, no, you're not supposed to have those scissors. You're supposed to have the green ones.
Yes.
And it was like, okay. And the funny thing is, my mother taught me, when I had to teach my daughter how to write, my mother taught me how she taught me how to write was to sit on the right of me so she could put her right hand over my left hand. And the reason I had to ask this is because my daughter is right-handed and has 2 left-handed parents.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yes. So it was like, how do I do this? Because I was like standing over her. I'm like, I'm not helping her. I am not helping her at all. I'm like, how come you're not turning this in? And I realized it's like, oh, wow. Gosh.
I never thought of that.
Thankfully for me, my grandmother and my aunt are both left-handed too.
So Liberty continues on, and this conversation's got a lot of legs here. He says, I've never had it break down. Carlos says it's in the cloud, and Carlos also says we are still waiting to go back to horses. and Liberty says, I guess it'll happen, but my car can break down too on my way to the library. Oh my, I think on that comment, we're going to shut it down this week. Okay.
But you know, like LaLa said, the library is accessible online. So
yes.
Okay, there you go. All right. So family, that is it. Library shut. The Primetime Saturday library is shut for the evening for this week. As always, want to thank everyone who watched live on the replay. Thank you for another conversation and interaction. As always, Heather would say, why they give out their contact information? Well, LaLa's going to do that right now.
Yes, you can find me on all social media platforms under Living the LaLa.
And do you go to a library?
I do. I love it.
All right. Next up, Aisha, the writer. I know she must like going to a library.
That's LaLa's information. Okay.
I'm switching up.
I'm at AK Staggers on Instagram. I had been making some political comments on Twitter. However, it is Racist Angst Month, aka Black History Month. So I'm taking the month off from even checking anything. So find me on Instagram, but you can always find me. Always. I don't check Instagram often. Always find me on the Discord
group. All right.
Always.
Good stuff.
Join.
All right. And you can find me here at all these different places. The drvibeshow.com website, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, The Dr. Vibe Show. Instagram at the drvibeshow, and Twitter or X or whatever at drvibeshow. Also, you can catch replays of this lovely conversation visually. The Dr. Vibe Show website, which I gave you, also on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn under the Dr. Vibe Show. And also, I got to keep on saying too, if you're an audio listener on your favorite audio podcast site, my conversations have been on for years. So this one is included on it. So before we call it a evening, there's a link for the Primetime Saturday shop. There's a link for getting exclusive content like 10 on 10 on Patreon. Please become a subscriber. And as Aisha said, also check us out on Discord, the continuing conversations, and they are fantastic. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube. Hit the notification button so you get notified of upcoming conversations. Also follow the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, too, if you want to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I host, please feel free to email me, dr.vibe@thedrvibeshow.com. All right, that is a wrap. So as always, we close out with this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourselves grace, and don't just manage your time. Manage your energy. God bless. Peace to you all. Keep the faith and walk good, and we'll see you next week.